Here is a board wipe that only kills your opponents. Damning Verdict destroys every creature with no counters on it, and in this deck every creature has counters. That is the whole trick. Tidus, Yuna's Guardian, is a 3-mana green, white and blue human warrior, and 20,000 people have already built it. Stick around, because the $2 version of this deck is uncomfortably close to the real one. Read it with me. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you move a counter from one creature you control onto another. That is all. Tidus makes no counters, he only moves them. Then, cheer. Whenever your creatures with counters on them deal combat damage to a player, you draw a card and proliferate once each turn. We are breaking down the average Tidus list, every deck on EDHREC merged into one. So this is what people actually play, not my pet brew. 20,000 decks did not happen by accident. Here is who is building it. Tidus arrived in June of 2025 with the Final Fantasy Commander decks, and in that first month he was the 21st most built commander in the world. Then the launch wave passed, and most of those legends fell off a cliff. Tidus did not. Numbers from EDHREC put him at 41st this June, with about 1,500 new decks in that month alone. The way people built him is close to unanimous. 2,200 of those decks are straight +1/+1 counters, 540 lean on proliferate, where Tekutha Inquiry Dominus turns every proliferate trigger into 2, 245 call themselves counters matter, and 192 just want to attack. 4 themes, 1 idea. Nobody is arguing about what this card does. Power level is settled too. Of the builders who picked a bracket, 3 and 5 put Tidus in bracket 3, the upgraded casual slot, and only 537 went to bracket 4. The salt score is 0.45, which is basically nothing. People do not resent this deck, they just lose to it slowly. So how does a counter you already own turn into a win? 3 pieces. Start with Sphere Grid in 89% of lists. Every creature of yours that connects gets a +1/+1 counter, and creatures with counters gain reach and trample. That is the on-ramp, because Tidus needs a creature with a counter to hit a player, and Sphere Grid makes every attacker into 1. Then Herald of Secrets streams in 4 lists in 10, says creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them cannot be blocked. Now the cheer trigger is not a hope, it is a schedule. Now the card I opened with. Damning Verdict, 5 mana, destroy all creatures with no counters on them. It is in 86% of Tidus decks, because in a deck where your whole board is carrying counters, that is a one-sided wrath. They lose everything, you lose almost nothing. And if you want the same feeling at instant speed, Inspiring Call draws a card for every creature you control with a counter on it and makes all of them indestructible until end of turn. The third piece is what happens when your stuff dies anyway. Yuna, Grand Summoner, taps for any color, gives your next creature 2 extra counters, and when a permanent with counters on it hits your graveyard, she moves that many onto something else. Resourceful Defense does the same job from an enchantment, and the Ozolith catches counters of anything that leaves and hands them back at the beginning of combat. Removal stops being removal here, it turns into a transfer. Here is the gotcha that wins games at kitchen tables. Tidus says, move a counter, not a +1/+1 counter. Any counter. Protection Magic puts shield counters on 3 of your creatures for 2 mana, and Tidus can slide one of those shields onto whatever is about to eat a removal spell. Nesting Grounds in 77% of lists does the same job of a land for 1 mana. Counters in this deck do not belong to a card, they belong to you. That is the engine. Now let us open up the average 99. The average list sits at an average mana value of 2.86, and it is front-loaded hard. 18 cards at 2 mana, 17 at 3, and only 2 cards in the entire deck above 5. That is a curve that wants to double spell on turn 4 and start swinging, which is correct, because Tidus does nothing at all until your creatures are connecting. 36 lands, 33 creatures, and then it thins out fast. 9 instants, 8 enchantments, 6 artifacts, 6 sorceries, and 1 lonely planeswalker in Elspeth Resplendent. What stands out is how few interaction slots there are. The average Tidus deck is not holding up counterspells. It wants to be the biggest board at the table and dare you to answer it, and with only 9 instants in the list, That there is the entire defensive plan. So what does an opening hand look like? Half the time you keep 3 or more lands out of 7, which is a coin flip on 36 lands. But 77% of hands hold one of the 18 2-drops, and that is the number that matters, because a turn 2 creature with a counter means Tidus has a target the moment he lands on turn 3. 15 creatures in the average 99 make a +1/+1 counter entirely on their own, no help required. By turn 3 you have seen about 10 cards, and 82% of the time one of them is a counter maker. That is the real reason this deck is so consistent. It is not a combo deck praying for a piece. It is a deck where nearly everything is the piece. Consistency is nice. Here is what an actual game looks like. 3 cards you will see in most lists. Hardened Scales, and 89% of them adds 1 to every pile of +1/+1 counters you place. Walking Ballista is a creature made out of counters that you can throw at faces. And Gatta and Luzzu, a 3-mana flash body, picks one of your creatures and says if damage would be dealt to it this turn, prevent that damage and put that many +1/+1 counters on it instead. Read those 3 together and you can probably see it coming. Gatta and Luzzu points at Walking Ballista, remove a counter from Ballista to deal 1 damage to Ballista. The damage is prevented and that 1 damage becomes a counter instead. Hardened Scales makes it 2. You are up a counter every single loop. So you loop as long as you like, then fire the whole pile at the table. 15,000 decks across EDHREC run that line. Most games are not the combo though. Turn 2, a creature that makes its own counter. Turn 3, Tidus lands and immediately moves a counter onto your best attacker. Turn 4, you connect, draw, proliferate, and every counter on your board grows at once. Turn 5, Herald of Secret Streams means blocking is not an option, and Damning Verdict wipes whatever they build while your team shrugs. This deck does not explode, it compounds. That is the plan. Now the part that decides whether you actually build it. The average Tidus list runs about $224. 1 card is 29% of that. The Ozolith by itself is $65. Cut it and you are down near 160. About 1 builder in 10 runs this deck as a budget list, and the reason they get away with it is that almost every card that makes this deck work is worth less than a booster pack. Waka Devoted Guardian costs 28 cents and shows up in 80% of lists. Reach Trample kills an artifact when he connects, and at end of turn, if a counter went on Waka, every other creature you control gets a +1/+1 counter. Riku Resourceful Guardian is 35 cents, and any creature you put a counter on cannot be blocked that turn. That is the Herald effect on a 3-mana body for pocket change. Grateful Apparition is 36 cents, it flies, and it proliferates every time it connects. Bread for the Hunt is 50 cents and draws a card whenever a creature with a counter deals combat damage to a player, which in this deck is most turns. Maester Seymour is 29 cents and dumps counters equal to his power onto another creature every combat. Those 5 cards together cost under $2. And if money is not the constraint, 3 cards raise the ceiling. Innkeeper's Talent is a green class enchantment in about a third of lists. Level 1 puts a counter on a creature every combat. Level 2 gives your counter permanence ward 1. Level 3 doubles every counter you place of every kind, including Proliferate. Branching Evolution does the +1/+1 for 3 mana and stacks with it. Run both, and Sphere Grid stops putting 1 counter on an attacker, it puts 4. Sword of Truth and Justice is the $31 one. Protection from white and from blue, and whenever the equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature and proliferate. In this deck, that is a second sheer trigger staple to evasion. And Takothor, Inquiry Dominus, at $1.30 is the cheapest real upgrade on the list. Every proliferate you get twice. That is the full average list, all 99 cards behind the commander. It lives on the Tidus page on EDHREC, it is linked in the description, and it shifts a little every week as people keep submitting decks. The honest summary: 36 lands, 33 creatures, a stack of 1 and 2 mana countermakers, and about 4 cards that genuinely end the game. Everything else is there to make sure your board has counters when Damning Verdict resolves. A board vibe that only kills your opponents, a $2 core, and a commander who never makes a single counter of his own. Tidus just moves them and moving is enough. The full average list is linked below. If you build it, start at bracket 3 because that is where everybody else put it. Subscribe for the next deck tech and go count some counters. EDHdex out.